Greetings and welcome to this episode of Everyday Enchantment. I am your host, Stacey. I barely slept last night because, again, another incredible being on this podcast that I could not wait to jam with. So you could listen in as well. Her name is Sara Bundy, and she is the owner and CEO of Pet Treks, a pet walking. Let me make sure I get all of this stuff, but it's just an incredible local company taking care of pets. And Sara and I've known each other for a while now. And one of my favorite things about her is she took a huge leap of faith out of her corporate world where she was a rock star for over 20 years. And we're going to dive into that topic today. How do you take a big leap of faith when everything in you says, "Ooh, don't do it"? So we are going to chat and get into the juicy details today. Welcome.
How are you?
I am not exaggerating when I say, like, I woke up with a smile on my face, so excited. I was like, is it time yet? Is it time?
It's me too. I feel the same way. I'm so happy we have this time to chat together because
yes,
we always have the best chats.
We totally do. And I always say that. I was like, we just need to share all these juicy conversations because I feel like a lot of everybody is having these kind of conversations like, ooh, what do you do when, or how do you navigate without telling anybody what to do, but just be curious together.
Just sharing a story. Yep.
Exactly. So I want to share, like I kind of alluded to at the beginning in the intro, that I've known you a long time now. Actually, we met at a networking event. We were like sitting next to each other and just having a moment. I was like, this is a really cool person I'm sitting next to.
Yeah, we did connect very well.
We just hit it off immediately, which I absolutely love and just trust that completely.
Yeah.
And I saw you doing all the things right out in the corporate world and being successful, but also you sharing with me, like, you know what? I don't know if this lights me up anymore, right? Like this question. And one of the things I kind of want to start with is this idea of, like, it didn't just one day you were like, I'm unhappy, and tomorrow you were like, I'm done. There's a journey. There's a process.
It was years.
Yeah, right?
It was years in the making. I knew years ago I just wasn't finding the happiness that I used to find in that career. It was a great career. Yeah. It provided a lot for me. And then one day it just didn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
when you didn't, can you share with us, like, what were the signs that really helped you?
I didn't enjoy the conversations. I used to enjoy having goals, used to motivate me. And like, I couldn't wait to get in and like work through my spreadsheets and see what I needed that day and then achieve them and we'd celebrate. Like, I didn't care anymore. I just was like, I don't want to do sales. Like I just don't care anymore. And even like, one of the things I really prided myself on with customers is when they were difficult, I loved to be like, let me listen to you and let me see how we can resolve this. And having success at the end and them telling you like they were so happy they met with you and they left my office happy, that would like just make my soul feel really good. I got something from that for a long time. And then towards the end, when people would come in being difficult, I almost met their energy. And that's not me. Like, that's just not who I am. But I just was my soul was so drained. I had nothing left to give, if that makes sense.
That's a really good point. And I think that, here's something interesting. We can love something and like you said, you're passionate about it, you're excited about it, and it served, right? Maybe like for me, my little container is about 8 to 10 years. I'm noticing a pattern. I like to mix it up. I left teaching after 8 years. I left corporate after 8 years. I'm right now in my own little business reset, which I don't even know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's around the 8-year mark. So every, almost decade, something says, oh, you flourished, you had so much fun, you found so much success. And yet, like, this isn't meant for you to just camp out here for the rest of your life.
Yeah, maybe that was it. And I thought something was wrong with me. Like, I loved this for so long and it brought me so much joy. Like that career was where I found stability through a marriage, through a child, through a divorce, through a single mom life.
Yeah.
I feel like I had that job as my stability.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, like my life evolved and I needed to evolve out of that job. But I was like, maybe if I just keep trying, I'll get that passion back. I did that for years.
Yeah.
And
And I think a
I
lot of us
ran
do.
its course.
Right? We
Yeah.
think so many of us and my clients, they'll come to me and be like, I need to fix me, right? If I just
Mhm.
fix my mindset or I just fix what I'm doing or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, rather than I think it's this process, right? We have to go through to kind of like, again, kind of grapple with it. But I also
Mhm.
think this idea of like, I don't ever think we immediately think, oh, situation has changed. I've evolved. This thing that
Mhm.
absolutely I love, that was a beautiful rock for me. I don't need it anymore, right? Like it has
Mhm.
served such a beautiful
Yep.
purpose. And
Yep.
it's okay
Yeah.
to let it go without having to be some like, because people always want to know, well, what was the big thing that caused you to do,
Yeah.
to
I don't think there was one big thing. I saw this meme, I guess you call it, on Facebook that just really like put into words what I couldn't put into words. Can I share it?
Absolutely. Please share.
Oh, wait. I was all those years I thought it was me and that like I did
Yeah.
something wrong. And then I saw this and I was like, I think
Yeah.
that says it
And I
better.
think that that's something we are all doing is like looking to ourselves to blame first. So let's
Yeah.
all practice stopping that
Right.
immediately
Let's
if
go to
we
Facebook and look for memes. They explain it all.
can. Exactly. That's why we're on social media in the first place.
Yeah, right. It says, "You're not stuck. You're just committed to certain patterns of behavior because they helped you in the past. Now those
Mm,
behaviors have become more harmful than helpful. The
yeah.
reason why you can't move forward is because you keep applying an old formula to a new level in your life.
Oh,
Change the
yes.
formula to get a different result." And I was like, yeah, that's
That
it.
and that reminds me, and I don't know whether he really said this, but Albert Einstein is attributed to
Mhm.
saying this, that basically you cannot solve a situation with the same energy it was created.
Yep.
It's like along those lines, right? Like, so
Mhm.
if you are evolving and you're, trying to figure out, okay, what's next for me? What really lights me up? To your point, if we stay in these patterns that are like, again, I always say to people, even like childhood trauma responses, patterns that we've created, they
Mhm.
served us maybe to survive something, survive a marriage, a childhood,
Mhm.
you name it, at least for
Yeah.
me. And then you get to a place in life where they don't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
And it
And it's
doesn't mean,
okay to move on.
yes, and
Leave
it
them.
doesn't mean you did it wrong or you're doing it wrong or whatever. It's like, can you hold compassion for that part of yourself that did it and let yourself also grow into or be into whatever this new state is?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I got another juicy question for you. Okay, so you're like, okay, I've tried for years. This isn't working. I'm
Mhm.
evolving. What was going through? I want to know kind of like what was going through your mind when you're finally like, okay, I'm gonna take this leap of faith because I know everybody asks me all this
Yeah.
all the time. So I want to hear it from you. Like, what was going on that you were like, yeah, I'm
I can
doing
tell you the exact moment. I was sitting in my office on a conference call.
it. Hmm.
We were 6 weeks into a conversion where a large bank bought our small bank, so things were real different. They weren't going well. I lost a lot of customers during that process. And I'm
Mm.
on a conference call with upper management, and he says, "I hear things are going exceptionally well." And it made me so angry because you can't lie to people that know the truth.
Right.
And I have like zero tolerance for that. That's happened to me in a relationship in the past, and like, I'm not doing it again. And I just start sobbing on this conference call in a glass office with customers and employees looking at me, and I could not stop. And I'm not a crier. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, universe, I get it. Like, I hear you. I literally in that moment just broke, and I was like, things are going to change today. So I
Wow.
went home and I talked to my husband. I said, I have to quit this job. I'm done. Like today, I'm done. And he said, I knew this conversation was coming because I haven't been able to talk to you in weeks. I could just tell your mental health is not good. So I knew this conversation was coming. And I said, but I know it's irresponsible for me to quit a job with nothing lined up, but I feel in my heart, I have to shut this door like now. And something, I know something else will open. And he said, absolutely, do it. So I quit and finished out my 2 weeks. And almost immediately people started saying to me, you should walk dogs. You should have fun and go walk dogs. Do something nice, go walk dogs. And I was like, haha, that doesn't pay the bills. And I didn't take it seriously, but I was hearing them. And then about a month later, we went and got our taxes done. And this accountant, she only knows me as a W-2 employee. She knows nothing personal about me. And so I was telling her, that's my last W-2. I quit that job. And she said, you should go walk dogs. And there was something about her saying it that was like, okay, universe, I hear you again.
Breadcrumb, breadcrumb, breadcrumb. Text message from spirit. Here it is. And again, I always say, you don't have to just get it once. Keep getting it.
Yeah.
Because if we need the mind, right, needs to be able to hold on to something and not just like drag it through a leap of faith. So if you, me, anybody, collectively, us, need a lot of reassurance, I'll like ask for it, get it. And like you said, sometimes just a random kind of more of a stranger than somebody who knows us intimately, it hits differently than everybody else, like right in our inner circle who are talking on the daily.
Oh yeah. And about like month and a half into me taking this break from the corporate world, because my intentions were to go back at some point. I was just taking like a mental health break. And the financial institution I was previously working for called and said, we've made a position for you. It's work from home. It'll take all the stress off you. We want you back. And they gave me the details. And I said, I'm going to call you back. And I just knew instantly, like, I'm supposed to be walking dogs. Like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I just feel like I know the universe told me I think it'd be a bad idea if I ignored it. So I called the woman back who would be my boss. And I just said, I'm going to decline, but I want to tell you why I'm declining. It's not that I don't appreciate what you guys did for me, but I'm going to start a dog walking business. And I have started, putting everything in line, and it just seems like it's unfolding in front of me super easily. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I didn't follow it, I would always wonder, what could I have done? So I'm going to decline your offer, and I'm going to see what I can do with the dog walking business. And she said to me, I've always had a dream of owning a bakery. And if the day comes that I get laid off from this job during a buyout, I know that'll be my sign that it's time for me to start a bakery. So I 100% want you to go start your dog walking business. You need to. And hearing that.
Exactly. It's like, okay, she wasn't even trying to talk you in.
Yeah, this woman didn't know me and just was so supportive and like gave me that little oomph of confidence that I made the right decision to let another corporate job go by.
Yeah. And there's so much fear, right? Like, let's talk about being afraid. It's like, how I'm going to make money. I got to pay the bills. Again, we have been so saturated and taught and trained and conditioned and fill in the blank to be afraid and to just be like, okay, I need to accept this with all of the things that it doesn't light me up just because I'm going to be like, again, out on the street if I don't absolutely, take the safe thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You and I had a coaching session a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember, but you said to me, what if the money doesn't matter? And I was like, of course the money matters. Like, that's why we work, to pay our bills. And you're like, no, just take it out of the equation and just talk to me. What if money didn't matter? And I don't think I had a two-way conversation with you about it, because I could not fathom not having that paycheck. And I even left there and I was like, of course.
What is Stacey Andon talking about now?
I got my wheels spinning, but I could not relate at that time. And I couldn't get my brain to even attempt to think about it. And now I realized, like, last year, I don't know, a couple months into this business, I was making a quarter of what I was making in the corporate world. But it turns out the money doesn't matter. I was still paying my bills. And it's funny, like, I think if your income goes up, then your debt goes up.
Yeah.
But also if your income goes down, if you're responsible, you can also make your debt go down. And like,
Yeah.
I just adjusted the things I needed to adjust. And
Mhm.
it's just happening so easy. It like,
Mhm.
when I tell you things fell into place, they just kept falling into place.
I love that. And I'm all about practicality too. So it's funny because so many clients will say, "You want me to quit my job?" First of all, I don't want anybody to do anything
Right.
because I'm not in charge.
Yeah.
I know that whoever it is knows best for what them to do. But I don't
Mhm.
usually think that a big change immediately, like you said, it planted a seed and then you
Yeah.
start to think about it. And again, there are practical considerations for being a human. Sometimes we do the things that we don't love as much so that
Mhm.
we can start to nurture, right, these other ideas. And then there's moments, and I agree with you, it's like a tipping point. I don't know if you'll agree with this, but for me, it's like I was unhappy in my first marriage, right? And I kind of just stayed there for a year or two, kind of knowing I wanted to kind of probably jump, but wasn't quite sure and was very
Mhm.
scared. And then there was this moment of clarity, which was on my birthday, was the spirit said to me, "You are not meant to camp out here for the rest of your life.
Right.
You gotta put yourself out of this."
Yeah.
And then I started to do what you were doing, like making different, like little baby steps toward it. And things were just easily coming my way.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that doesn't mean if things aren't exactly easy, it's the wrong choice. And I say wrong
Yeah.
loosely, but it just means that so often we think it's going to be harder, right? Because the brain doesn't want us to change. It wants us to stay in your meme, in that
Yeah.
quote, that pattern,
Yeah.
because it's familiar and comfortable. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, if we're here on earth to experiment, I don't know about you, but when I left corporate and started this business, which I didn't have like an established business, I did the same thing that you did.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I remember people going, "What are you doing? Why aren't you like?" And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's gonna work out. I have faith in myself.
Right.
I am smart. I am
Mhm.
capable. If I experiment with this and it's not meant to be, I will land somewhere else in some
Mhm.
other
Right.
spot. And
Right.
so
Not
that
the end all be
always,
all.
yeah, like that thought, I think, helped me navigate all the uncertainty.
Yep. Yep. No, I
So
think you're
let me
right.
ask you this question. Like, what were like, because again, the world has taught us, you don't quit your job. You should have taken, like,
Yeah.
they customized a job for you and all these things.
Mhm. Yeah.
What helped you, really say, I'm going to like step away from everything that I know, everything I've been taught, everything. I'm sure everybody listening is like,
Yeah.
well, how exactly,
Yeah.
right? Did you trust that?
Um, I think because of where my mental health, how far down it had gone in that moment that I was crying in my office,
Yeah.
I just made some decisions right then and there once I decided I was leaving that in my next job, I would not put myself in a position where I have to always smile and the customer is always right. Like, I'm gonna put myself in a position where I can be true to myself.
Mm.
And then I was just getting all those signs of what to do next. And it just everything aligned.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about leaving the bank years ago, probably 5 years ago, and I couldn't see my pathway out. I struggled with it. And if I had done it at that time and started a dog walking business, COVID would have hit.
Ah,
Everyone would have been home with their dogs. So the dog walking business really like failed during that time.
yeah.
And I just believe timing is everything. Like I had to feel that pain in
Mm.
order to see the value in taking a risk, knowing I had to do anything just to get away from that pain I was enduring, and that just helped me make that big jump, I guess.
I absolutely love that because I also think, right? People think, oh, this chance is like this woman with the bakery, right? Hopefully she gets her, she takes her chance and she
Yeah,
does it.
absolutely.
And we don't, I think so often people think, oh, I'm too old for this, or I'm too late, I'm too far in, or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. And I love how you kind of sat in the discomfort for a while. This is what I'm
Mhm.
saying. I don't think most people are meant to just process. I'm done, or whatever, marriage, job, you
Right.
name it, move across the country, whatever it is, fill in the blank.
Right.
There's this process
I
of
agree.
really going inward first and getting clear. And I love what you said. You're like, I knew whatever it was that I did, I needed to be true to me. And that, so it's like, it's not like you're like, I need to walk dogs and do this and blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't like the how and the when, because that's what, again, we like to try to plan everything. It was a belief, a value that you're like, whatever this is what is going, like, again, whatever I'm doing in terms of like the 3D world is going to be anchored in this alignment with myself.
Yeah. I led with the values that became important to me. And then I let the universe tell me what exactly it was. But it all aligned.
And I think that that's a really beautiful thing with leaps of faith. It's like, we're not going to know everything. There's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be skepticism and doubt. There's definitely were times. It's weird though. I will say, when I left my first marriage, I think I had done so much inner work by the time I got there. As miserable and painful as there were moments, especially that first year or two, I never said to myself, I regret my decision. I just was like, this is hard. And keep going forward, because you're going to get through it. Very differently than, again, to your point, I can remember one time when I first started my business and I had a certain price point, and I said to my husband, I was like, I'm going to increase my prices. And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, it doesn't feel a lot like whatever the price was didn't quite feel aligned. And I was like, he goes, you don't have all these clients. How are you going to raise price? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to do it. We'll see. Hey, again, the idea that like most things that we do, we can pivot from, right? We can, if it's not working, we get intel that's like, oh, this trail has gone cold, go over here instead. So I raised my prices and I got like 3 new clients, like in a week or two, right? And
because
so
you know your value.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's anchoring in what, if you're listening to this, it's like, what is it that you most want and value? And if you have to sacrifice and compromise that on the regular, the question to me is, what if you don't, right? Like that was my question to you, I guess, a couple of years ago. It's like, if everything's on the table and you could do whatever you wanted and there's no, again, negative consequences, not that we're not going to eventually consider all of that, but just in this moment of dreaming up and calling in whatever it is you truly want, you've got to let go of all that social conditioning, at least while you're in. In that moment.
And growing up, my parents were both very successful business people. And I felt like, okay, that's what it means to be successful. And that's why I jumped into the corporate world and I excelled. I did really well until the very end. And that was such a conditioning. Like, I don't have to be in the corporate world making 6 figures to be successful. And I even think my idea of success has changed. Like, success isn't what's in my bank account, because when my bank account was full, my soul was empty. And now my bank account's not even there anymore. But like, my soul is so happy every single day. Because I'm being true to myself for the first time ever. I'm doing it my way. And people are really open and receptive to it. So it must be right. I must be doing the right thing.
Well, yeah, if you're getting all of that it's just like, again, this confirmation of, oh yeah. And I love this other point that you made too. It's like, and this has happened to me in the last couple of years. I have given away, decluttered, sold, you name it, so many of my personal belongings and things. I think part of this conditioning, right? At least for me, I remember when I was in my 20s, I was like, all right, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a couple kids. I'm going to have this starter house. Then I'm going to have a bigger house. And then I have this dream. And now I think I don't want any of, if I'm being really honest. And I think sometimes when there's a like friction between ourselves and whatever we're doing, is because, like you said, it's this definition of whatever success is that is very much like, oh, this is what it looks like, and this is how, get on the highway, and all of us are headed the same way. Where it's like, I'm like, oh, how can I live way more simply with less needs less things. I don't need a lot, right? And it reminds me, there's a woman, I don't know if you've seen her out there on the socials. Her name's Courtney Carver, and she upended her life years ago with this, like her kind of her tagline, or her company is called Be More with Less. And she, I think, had a medical diagnosis and whatever. She basically overhauled her life and did something very similar, where she created this business making less money, but she created a life that absolutely was in alignment. And she loves her life in ways that, again, compared to what it looks like on paper, right? When you have whatever, all the things that we've all been trained to want and desire. It's like, if you let all that go and you listen to what your soul actually wants, I think most of us are going to find a way. There's practicality to this too, but there's definitely, you don't have to compromise, at least for me, the soul longings because of the practicality of being human.
You can't.
Oh, well, I guess you can, but then you're walking around pretty much.
And you're crying in your office.
Exactly. Oh, trust me, I've cried many a time and many a place in all sorts of ways and had those moments. And to me, again, when you have a moment like that, to me, it's a very kind of, it's like soul. It's like the soul saying, like, we don't want you to suffer. It's not about suffering.
Yeah.
It's about awakening, which awakening, there is some discomfort of breaking out of, right, the molds that we've built for ourselves, or other people have built for us. So tell me, what's your favorite thing now about waking up and being you in this life? And like, what do you know now that you didn't know when you started this a couple of years ago?
I have energy that I just didn't have prior. Every single day I get to surround myself with dogs, and they're adorable.
Love that.
So there's that. I can make my schedule pretty much however I need it to be. So if there's something important to me that I want to do, I just don't schedule anything during that time. That's super nice.
That's wonderful.
It's just like when I get really busy, that motivates me because I know that I'm doing something right. Like, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. People want to use pet tracks. And so it motivates me. And I have a couple employees now, and they both got really worn out over the summer because summer is when we're busiest.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm exhausted. So like next summer, I don't want as many hours. And I had to look at like, okay, when we're busy, it motivates me because it's just showing that I'm doing the right thing. So it's like kind of intrinsic for me to like keep me going. I have to remember for my employees, it's a completely different perspective. This isn't their heart and soul.
Right. Absolutely. It also just creates innovation, right? So if this is information that you're getting, it's like, okay, so how can I next summer, like you get to play around with all these ideas because you have like you have 6-7 months before.
Right.
So, although who knows in Maryland when summer will show up. It might be in January. We'll have 80 degrees for 3 days.
Right.
But this idea of like, how can I serve? Because here's what corporate doesn't do. Corporate doesn't think, how can I serve the needs of my employees and be, right? Like you get to create in ways that to me is also building new business models that take into account like people being able to share that with you and go, okay, all right, how do I want to do this moving forward? Because I have lots of different, I could go down this path or this path or this path. Versus this, again, we all kind of get stuck in these, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And take this idea of taking 2 weeks off. Right now, I feel like the whole world is in just a trauma response. I mean, there's so much chaos and stress and all the things. And we need deep, soulful space, rest, healing, whatever that is. And I think we're starting to realize that the models, the institutions of business and corporate, they don't work for most people anymore. Even people still in them, right? This is my husband was telling me about quiet quitting and all these other things. It's like, because people are feeling, like you said, very stuck. And the institutions are almost stuck because they've been doing things a certain way.
They don't change.
Like you said, post-COVID, the world is so different. So I'm excited to see it's messy.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, all of a sudden we just have it perfect, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
excited to see how we all contribute, and you giving yourself permission to take the leap and follow yourself and really encourage spirit. Like, yes, I'm in this.
Yeah.
Like, to me, gives me permission, gives everybody else permission.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do something as big as, exit the corporate, how could you incorporate doing something just completely soul driven for yourself?
Right.
I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour a day.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with being successful, productive,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, fill in the blank, and just is all about your own soul self.
We all need to do that.
I love it. All right. So, my beautiful friend, thank you for coming on here. I love your story. Your energy is contagious. It invigorates and inspires me to think, oh, yeah, like, are there places where I'm still out of alignment, right? Are there places where I'm still doing things that maybe I'm just doing because I did them for a long time? That's like another.
Update your formula.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure the locals that are listening are like, ooh, pet walking, I'm interested. Yeah. How can they find you out on the web, the socials, what have you, if they want to get into your world?
I'm on Facebook under Pet Treks Baltimore, and I also have a website, which is pettreksbaltimore.com, and you can contact me, send me an email, my number's on there, shoot me a message, and let's chat.
Sweet. So I'll put all of that in the show notes so people can link to it easily.
Oh, that'd be great.
And okay, so I always also love to, if I remember when I'm closing a podcast, one thing, if you could leave the audience and me with one thing from all of this whole experience, what would you pull out as like the one thing for you and for us?
Listen to your intuition. And if you're getting signs, just be open to what they have to say and follow it, and just rest easily until you get the full message.
I love that. Rest easily until you get the full message. That is a beautiful message, especially to me this time of year. Thank you for being here. I just love and adore you, as you know. And until next time, please come over to my Facebook group, Everyday Enchantment, and pop over, because we're always talking about these kinds of topics, following your soul and your intuition, and all the latest podcast episodes as well. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get all the delicious details and links we've mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. If you'd like to chat about this episode or learn more about how to work with me, come visit me in my private Facebook group, Everyday Enchantment. Or check out my website, staceyandon.com, where you can find out more about my Leap of Faith coaching, my Map Makers group program, and the School of Intuitive Magic. Plus a special shout out for all the production and editing of this show by Richard Wilmore. That's it for now, love. Here's to living a life enchanted. See you soon.